Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to remove a fuel tank and a fuel pump out of a Ford Expedition. This one here is an '05 model. Yours might be a little bit different. I hadn't planned on making a video of this at first, but I decided to go ahead and do it. So I've already actually replaced the fuel pump and I'm in the process of putting it back together. I'm going to explain the steps and hopefully you understand how to do it. The first thing you need to do is lift the vehicle up in the air and get some jack stands underneath it. You're going to need to get quite a bit of clearance to get the tank out from underneath. Now once you come underneath, you'll see that the fuel tank is located on the driver's side. The first thing that you'll need to disconnect underneath here, if you look above the fuel tank on the rear side by the rear axle, you'll need to disconnect the two connectors there and then your fuel filler tube, which are both attached to the top of the tank on the back side. Now, I had to release the sway bar on this one. Some vehicles I do have to, some I don't. So I had to take the two bolts off on each side to get the sway bar to lower down. The next thing, you'll need to come up front where the fuel filter is and disconnect the fuel line using a fuel disconnect tool, and then disconnect the other line that's close to the fuel filter, which is sitting right there. After that, you'll need to get the jack underneath the fuel tank and get something to support it. It helps if you have a friend help you out. The tank gets pretty heavy, especially have you fuel in it. Hopefully you don't have a full tank because it gets hard to balance and gets really heavy. But once you get that jack underneath there, then you'll see your brackets that's going underneath, and then you'll go to the two bolts hanging onto the brackets on the frame and unbolt those. Once you unbolt those, you want to remove the brackets or pull them back and then start lowering down the fuel tank. Now you don't want to take the tank all the way to the ground because you can't stretch out the electrical connectors, but you'll get it down far enough to where you can reach the connectors on the top of the fuel tank and then the one that's sitting off to the side here. Now the main connector has a little safety clip on there. You'll need to pull that safety clip out and then squeeze on the connector to pull it out of the socket, and then you'll take the other connector, squeeze on it to pull it out. Once you do that, you'll be able to take the tank all the way down and get it out from underneath the truck. Once you get your tank out from underneath the truck, you'll need to take off the two connectors here. One of them is a squeeze connector. The other one is a little bit different. I see these broke all the time because people don't know how to take them off. But you basically have the same connector on the fuel filter, so I'm going to show you here. This is the connector here that attaches to the fuel filter. If you take a screwdriver and you pop the center clip up just like that, then you'll be able to push on the outside edge and release it. Now if you look down in there, you'll see that you have a lock on this side, and watch what happens whenever I push that center clip back in. You can see the lock go in on this side. So you pull that center out and it releases the lock on one side, and then you have to push on the outside of the clip and it releases the opposite side. So try not to break the clip and just take your time and you shouldn't have any problem. Now whenever you have the tank down, it's a good time to go ahead and replace your fuel filter, and you need to anyway with a new fuel pump. Just takes a couple of 10mm bolts, take the cover off, and the fuel filter is right there. Now whenever you go to take off the fuel pump or take the fuel pump out, you'll need to take this ring off. Now before you do that, you want to clean all this area. If you have a air hose or something, blow it off or wipe it off. Clean all the dirt and debris out from around it because you don't want anything falling in the tank. But you'll take this ring off, you'll take a screwdriver, a big one, and hit these little notches around the outside of the ring. Now you'll need to get a hammer and hit it pretty hard. This thing's on here really tight, so you're going to think that you're hitting it extremely hard, and it might not still come off real easy. It's going to be pretty tough. So once you get that ring off, get it off to the side, pull the fuel pump assembly out, take your O-ring off. Then you'll be putting the new fuel pump in. You want to make sure you put your new O-ring on and then put your fuel pump assembly on using the arrow to line it up. There'll be an arrow on the tank, and then there should be an arrow on the new fuel pump assembly also to line it up. Then you'll put your ring back on and hit it back on clockwise to tighten it up and use the same notches with a hammer. It's going to take a lot of pressure again to tighten it up. So just make sure you get everything tight and lined up whenever you're putting it back together. After that, you'll be putting your connectors back on and start to put it back on top of your jack to lift it back up into the truck. The whole process is pretty much reversed whenever you're lifting it back up in there. Just use your jack, lift it up. Make sure that you get your electrical connectors connected before you get it fully up in there. And then lift the tank on up, get the brackets on there, and then go ahead and reattach the lines on the front and all the lines in the back, and then tighten up your bolts for the fuel tank. So once you get that far, you pretty much pulled your tank, put it back in, and changed your fuel pump. Hopefully I explained everything to you correctly to where you can understand it. Anyway, thanks for watching my video today. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching my video again, and I will see you in the next vid.